Hi, Rich Hoffman here. I'm here with the great, wonderful, I say that about all the people I like that are in politics, the great, wonderful George Lang. And I say that because George and I have known each other for decades now.
Yeah.
I remember some of the contentious issues back when you were supportive of John Boehner before he was even Speaker of the House, and the dirty politics that we associate with the Trump campaign now. You and I bonded quite a bit when you were going through that trial.
That's right.
Because they were attacking you to get to him before he gained any kind of power. So if you like politics and you like good people who are in it, I've seen the side of you that is genuine and sincere and up against the wall with everybody throwing, as much as they threw at Trump, they were trying to throw at you as well.
Yep.
So we've been friends ever since then. And, when I say great and wonderful and all those kinds of things, and people say, well, politics does this and that, and, he's on this side and there's other people on this side. We've been through the Tea Party movement. We've been through the Reform Party movement. We've been through the MAGA movement. I remember when we did the thing at the Savannah Center, which you and I were really the organizers of it. We were talking about, this is when no one was giving Trump a bit of credit. And, you have interest in Jags, the restaurant, great steakhouse in Westchester, great place. I love going there, go there a lot. And we were going to have Trump go there. We're going to shut the place down and have Trump go there after his event at the Savannah Center. And then he came in and complained that it was too small.
Yep.
And I remember everybody who was sitting around the stage, because we all had VIP passes. And at the time, you and I, there was a few other people that showed up, local politicians, but you and I were there before anybody else. And everybody else was poo-pooing it, but you were one of the first ones to be on the Trump.
You and I were in the front row
You and I were at the front
aisle, and that protester came down. We stood up.
Well, you stood up, okay, because I'm always worried about, when I do these things in public, I'm always cautious about litigation.
Yeah.
And getting into a fight with somebody. When you touch people, they could come at you. So you were like, if someone comes down this hall, down this aisle, we were right in the front. Trump was about as close to us as you or me right now. And when before that guy came down, you said, if someone comes down, there's a protest, because they were playing protesters in the audiences. Right. This is 2015, I think. This is a year before the actual 2016 election. And you told me, said, if someone comes down here, I'm going to get them.
Yeah.
you told me. So a lot of people, what they don't get to see about you, they know you're the pro-business guy, and in Ohio, the majority whip in the Senate, and that you're pro-business, and you don't get caught up on sticky subjects as much as you can avoid it, because you like to be pro-business. They don't get to see the side of you that's the fighter. Now that's why you and I have been friends all this time, because we both like to fight. I love to fight. I like to fight any issue where the underdog gets represented. And you, on that particular instance, we were there together, and the aisle was between us. And this protest, you said, I'm going to get them if they get up. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get them. I'll let the security do it, because I don't want the liability of engaging some stringy-haired hippie. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to get caught in court over it. I'd let the security do it. And you said, I'm going to get them. And sure enough, a protester in our aisle came up with a goofy sign, and he came down, and you got up and got in his face.
I stood up and blocked him until the cop came and said, Mr. Lang, we got this.
They did. The cops had to pull you off of him. And that's the part that a lot of people don't know, but you were one of the first on the Trump train. And when it comes to fighting things behind the scenes, you get involved in a lot of stuff that nobody ever knows about. No one ever talks about. The media certainly never covers it, but I know it because I've known you for 20 plus years. Yeah. And I know that you fight in all the ways that you can fight for the goodness. And that's not just me saying it because you're sitting here. It's because I've known you. And when people ask me, well, why are you friends with George Lang? You're you're way over here on the right. And George is kind of, he's kind of a rhino. And they're like, well, he's a majority whip, and you have to talk to a lot of people, and you get pretty politically skilled, and you can sit down with people who don't agree with you all the time and get them to see your side of the story. and you can't fight everybody all the time. And your way of fighting is to actually listen to them and see if you can turn your point of view.
That's right.
So I've learned to trust that about your style over the years because of the big fights you've been involved in. So I was really interested when I saw the finance report come out, because we have a big levy here, Lakota Schools. You and I, even back in the day when I've been in trouble, major trouble, you've always been there to kind of fight and make sure that I was represented. So we've kind of backed each other up over the years a lot. And that was levy fights. And when we deal with Lakota, biggest employer in Butler County, essentially, I think it still is.
I believe that's right.
I think, and they're definitely the biggest employer in our community, Lakota Schools. But then you have this philosophic debate about public ownership. What do they teach? What's the quality of education? How would it change? How should it change from what it was? And I'm on the whole burn it down theory. Just get rid of it. Go back before Dewey invented anything and start over. And you've been, it's a system we have. Let's make it work. You've encouraged me to get on the school board, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with those crazy people. They don't know how to put together a budget, and we've had those discussions for years. So you've been trying to work within the system to make the system better, and I think logically I like to burn it down. But we do work to make it as good as possible. And we both always have been on the side of no more taxes. We give them enough money. We agree on that completely. So I was surprised to see that your name came up with a $2,000 check to them. And I know that a lot of the people who are standing against the levy, and they're all people who are friends of ours, people we've known for a long time. Some are new to the whole thing. And back in the day when we did no Lakota levy, this has grown into something much more organic, much bigger than anything I ever did in the past with a group of developers who just didn't want more taxes.
Yep.
Now it's become a bigger and I think a much improved situation. But they saw your name next to this and they're like, George Lang is before the levy? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And I heard it. There's got to be a good reason, but I can't imagine what it is. So what is it?
Well,
that was crazy.
I was as surprised to learn about it as you were, and I'll tell you that story in a second. We actually met in 2003 when I was running for trustee. So you said a couple decades. That is accurate.
You and I?
Yeah, and I was running because they were putting a parks levy on and a community center levy on. And I ran on a platform of no on the both levies. I'm literally, the parks levy at the time would have spent $60 million developing parks in Westchester.
Yeah, I remember that.
At the time, our police budget was $12 million. So 5 years of funding the police and the community center. You can't show me one community center in the country operated by government that is not a disaster.
All of them.
And the proponents said, well, we need a swim pools for our kids. And literally, we killed that levy. I got elected. Within 3 years, there were 3 Olympic-sized pools in Westchester built by the private sector, not the public sector, and they were able to monetize it. So I got a call from Gary Cates. So I've been against the school levy from day one. And for the record, Rich, with the exception of MRDD, because of a niece who I have and love dearly, who is no longer with us, and the elderly, I tend to vote against all levies. So Gary Cates, a good friend of mine, who's, by the way, a great political strategist. If you ever want to talk chess with him, he's usually pretty good.
Gary's always at the things I go to, and he goes to a lot more than I go to. Gary's always there.
He works the state more than any statewide office
He's a hard-working guy.
He's not even running for anything. He's just everywhere. So he called me on Wednesday and asked me the same question. He said, I'm not being judgmental. I just want to know, why are you doing this? Tell me. And I said, Gary, I'm not. You are mistaken. You have a misunderstanding. He said, George, it's on the Board of Elections website. And it was late at night. He called me about 10 o'clock. I said, well, I'll check it out in the morning, but I know you're mistaken. So the next morning I go to the Board of Elections website. Now I had already committed a $2,000 campaign check to the No Lakota that they were going to stop by my office on Friday and pick up. So I go to the Board of Elections website, and sure enough, it's there. There's $2,000 contribution. I went to look up the check number because I was sure the Board of Elections made a mistake. They made mistakes in the past, and it wasn't a check number, it was a credit card. When I get my credit card statements, Rich, I don't look at them. I send them to my accountant. He tells me how much my corporation owes and how much I owe, and I just pay the checks. And quite honestly, had I seen it, I might not have paid attention to it anyway. My wife and I, between personal and my campaign fund, literally give hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to conservative causes and candidates. So I saw it was on my credit card, and I said, this is a scam. And I checked up my credit card, and sure enough, it was there. So the first thing I do is confront my wife. And she said, I remember you telling me to do a $2,000 donation to the No Lakota levy. She said, I don't remember doing the contribution to the No or the Pro. I don't remember it. She said, it might have been me, but I'm not going to throw Debbie under the bus. It could have been me by accident. One of us did it on our credit cards. So as soon as we noticed it, I called the No Lakota levy, and I told them they had already known, and they were curious about it too. And I said, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to call the Pro levy folks and ask for my money back. I said, if they give me my money back, which they don't have to do. If you remember, Josh Mandel never gave any of his money back when he dropped out of the race. If they do, instead of a $2,000 check, when you stop by Friday afternoon, it'll be $4,000. My wife calls Mike Powell on the No Lakota, the Pro Lakota levy campaign. He was nothing but a gentleman, and said, Mike, this is a mistake. You know, George and I are both against the levy. And he joked about it. He said, are you sure subconsciously you weren't trying to do it? And Debbie assured him that wasn't the case, but they both had a good laugh. And he said, look, I don't know what we can do. Let me call you back. He called back a half hour later and said, hey, we talked about it. We are going to refund your money, less the credit card fee. We were good with that.
Yeah.
So I haven't gotten my check back from them yet, but I know it's on the way. So when the No Lakota levy stopped by yesterday, instead of a $2,000 check for him, I had a $4,000 check for him. And I believe I'm the largest contributor now to the No Lakota levy. And we reached out to the Board of Elections to find out, can you correct it? And they said, yeah, but not until the next filing report.
Yeah.
So it'll be out there for another, I don't know when the next report is due, 60 days, 90 days, however.
So it'll be
long that
after the
is.
election.
It'll be after the election.
And
yeah.
it'll be right. And it makes a little bit of sense. I think if you want to play, just talk politics.
Yep.
Because you have to get good with everybody. Just to kind of address the questions that are out there. If you want to play both sides, to make, so you don't want to have a position, you wouldn't give any money at all.
Yep.
When you give money, you're kind of saying, I'm supportive of this. And I knowing you the way I do, I can't imagine you ever saying, I'm going to get behind a tax increase, especially the largest in Ohio's history. But then the people watching this or like, they don't. You have to understand that you've been a very wealthy person over time because you've been successful in business, and you didn't get that way through politics. Politics is something you do to give back.
Yep.
You would be independently wealthy because you worked hard for a long time, and that's why you give hundreds of thousands of dollars to donations. So when people say, well, how could you miss that on your credit card? It's like, how do you miss your Netflix account? How do you miss your Apple Pay? And you don't pay attention to them because you're used to funding these things. And normally when it comes to especially school business, because they're in our district, everybody personally, you're involved in meetings, you have to talk to them all the time because you're a representative and they're always looking for something out of legislation. So you have to have a partnership. You can't be throwing eggs at each other across the parking lot. So you get complimentary.
Yep.
And sometimes accounts do get mixed, and Debbie's involved in things and talks to people, and everybody's trying to bridge gaps. And I'm not trying to make excuses for it, but you got to have perspective on transaction history. And you were planning before any of this got out to donate money to the No Lakota folks, the No Tax folks, I think is what they call themselves these days. Because when we first talked about this, and I was talking to this about this with them, you had already committed a check. So you're either giving $2,000 on both sides, or you give nothing to either side and say, I'm out of this one. I don't want to be on a record.
Right.
So I'm with you on the transaction issue, and it's nice they're going to give you your money back.
Yep.
It's very nice. You gave $4,000 to fighting the tax because those taxes cost a whole lot more than those donations, but you are the largest contributor. You would have been, I think, even before the extra bonus. But it's good. I think it says a lot about where your position is. and in a lot of ways, they raise so much money taking your $2,000 away. Is it going to hurt them? It's not going to hurt them on the signs, but on the other side, how hard it is because of the shakedown. It's a real community erosion issue. How do you fund schools, and then how do you support something like this where you still got to sit down and talk to people, and keep it not being contentious? Because a lot of people who are against this tax levy, they can, like I can afford to throw rocks and be very judgmental on their actions because I can take it or leave it. I don't have to go to the meetings. You got to talk to them.
Yep.
And it's better to have good relations with people. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it's good to have an ability to at least reach across and shake a hand and see if you can change your mind sometimes.
Yep. Rich, I've had a lot of success in life by never burning a bridge. Even last night, I went to work the football game for the No Lakota folks, and I saw Julie and Kelly both there, and I gave them both a hug. They know that we disagree on policy. They know I hope that they lose their election. I'm sure they hope I lose my election every time I run. But at the end of the day, we can still be friends and get along. And I think highly of both of them as people, not as policy, but as people. They're really good people. And every Democrat I serve with in the Senate is my friend. We never agree on policy. That's not fair. We seldom agree on policy. But as an individual, I can see the beauty in each one of them and get along with them. And at the end of the day, we'll fight over policy, and then we'll walk away as friends.
And that's great. And I love that about you. My wife loves that about you and your wife. That you're like that. I'm not like that. I could say I hate some of those people. I despise them. I saw Kelly Casper's. She's got over by the back porch saloon. She has a billboard ad up, and I looked at that and thought, what a waste of money that someone put enough money for her to put an ad up there for a billboard for her race, because I think that they're just completely worthless on a school board. But I think it's great that you are like that. A lot of people don't know that. They just see that they think of it as being wishy-washy, and it's really to build bridges that you can. And again, back to the success thing. You run several businesses, and they've grown over time, and that's how you're able to accumulate enough money to make those kinds of donations. Where even $2,000 is an error you might not have noticed on your credit card, because there's a lot of those inputs in there where you give political contributions.
Yep. And my typical credit card is 3 pages long. Most of it, by the way, is Cheers Coffee. If you've never been there, they have great coffee. I bet I'm there 6 times a week. Get me a cup of coffee, and
you'll notice
it's a great place.
A lot of line items, and there's a lot of stuff that it shows up, and you go down and it's just $2.75, $7, $10, $2,000.
I've never
$6.
Never studied one hard.
So I think a lot of people would like to have that problem, but I think a lot of people, not to say you're any different than anybody else, but you've worked hard for a long time. You've been very smart. You said you didn't burn any bridges, and you're in a good place in life where you can be forgiving and conscientious and try to build those bridges with people that you may not agree with, like you said with Julie and the other one, Kelly Casper.
Yeah.
I have this mental, like, I hear her screeching voice in these school board meetings, and it's just, I tune her out. I can't even remember her name half the time. It's just one of those things. But you do. You work with people really well, and I think that's a very impressive trait. It's a trait I don't have. I mean, I can cosmetically work with people, but just like that time with the Trump deal, where I'm worried about the litigation, I'm worried about the engagement, the fight, because sometimes that happens, and you have that fighter in you, but you find a way to walk through it and always build a bridge, and it's always been a good trait that I've always liked and admired about you. Another part of it, and just kind of bring everybody up, because every time we go to something together, or I go somewhere and you didn't get to go. I think we were at Mark Welsh's deal, because the Lakota levy people have been putting signs next to Mark's sign.
Yeah.
To say, as if to say he supports us, and they put everywhere Mark's signs are. They've been putting pro Lakota levy signs, And at his fundraiser, which you were going to speak at, but you got locked up at Columbus. I've been to a couple things, and you haven't been able to come because you've been locked up at legislation issues, and you couldn't get out of Columbus in time to come to the events.
Yep.
Mark's was one of them, and he was going on and on about not voting for this levy's horrible. It's a huge tax increase, and you guys for years tag teamed in Westchester to kind of create this, what the greatness is here. And I say here because we're filming this in Westchester. The wonderful business growth that's you laid the foundation for, and he's continued, and that's what's on the ballot. I mean, because he's up for re-election. Going way back, he went on to say, low taxation. That's how if you can keep your taxes down, you can keep the infusion of a good quality community going. That's always been your baseline philosophy. So we were talking about you and the fights you're in, and he was out there yakking about why we shouldn't pay for this tax increase. And of course, what always comes up is, well, how's George? Is George not here because is he still alive? He's because it's not a big secret, but you've been fighting stage 4 cancer.
Yep.
And been doing it for quite a while. We this is normally stage 4 cancer. You say, hey, I got stage 4 cancer, and then 2 weeks later, you're no longer around.
Yep.
And you told me about it, many months ago, and I think my first reaction to it was, well, just like that loser protesting at the Trump rally, or any of the other fights, or the prosecution with they were trying to sting you with Boehner.
Yep.
All the fights over the years that nobody knows about anymore. Some people out there weren't even born yet when some of these things were going on. And I heard you say, well, I have stage 4 cancer. I was like, okay, how are you going to fight it?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I'm doing this, and this. And I'm going to beat it. It'll be fine. So I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? What are you and Debbie going to do tonight? And that's how we handle things.
That's right.
That's how we handle major catastrophes. But at these events, and you haven't been able to come to them because you were locked up in Columbus, everybody assumes that there's some cover story going on because you must be sick and you can't come. And you've just been busy.
Yeah.
So how are you doing with all the cancer stuff? Because
so
stage 4 is serious stuff.
It's serious. It's very serious.
But a lot of people don't understand, and you and I talk about this all the time.
Yep.
Healthcare. The future of healthcare is not in treating the sick.
It is not.
It's in solving the problem. And you've been attacking this stage 4 cancer thing by solving the problem. Same way you attack a lot of other things.
Yep.
And people say it's a death sentence, but you never said that. You said, okay, I got a problem. I'm going to go solve it.
Yep.
I'm going to go fight it. So how's it going?
So it's going great. And I compare it to when I took on the federal government. From the day of my indictment to the day of my not guilty verdict, it was like 5 weeks. First unanimous not guilty verdict in the federal court in the city of Cincinnati in over 20 years. And about 5 days into that process, the federal government came to me and offered me a deal. If I helped them do 3 things, one of which was go after John Boehner, I would get a slap on the wrist. I'd plead guilty to a misdemeanor. They would make sure I'd keep my insurance and my securities license, which at the time were 80% of my income, and I would be good. And I literally, we told the federal government, go F yourself. We are not afraid of the truth. And we marched full speed ahead. And they were expecting me to take that deal. Less than 1% of people are found not guilty because most people that aren't guilty take a dirty deal.
All right, so we got to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about cancer, stage 4 cancer, but in a lot of ways, there's a stage 4 cancer that's in our legal system.
Yeah.
And if you've read, and I say it all the time, and I like Peter Navarro's book, I Went to Jail So You Won't Have To.
Yep.
I think it's the most important book you can read out there. I know it because I knew it from you. And when people say you were indicted, you were a target, a political target before this lawfare was well known among people. Yep. And you were found innocent, clearly innocent, but you were targeted because they were trying to take out John Boehner before he became Speaker of the House, and you were his friend.
That's right.
And so you whittle away your friends. So Peter Navarro was thrown in jail, Steve Bannon was thrown in jail because they were satellites of Trump.
Yep.
And that was a way to get to Trump by taking out his satellites. So this game's been going on for a long time. And so you defended it. Peter Navarro pointed out in his book that a lot of the people that he was in jail with, a lot of the white-collar crime people, were ones that were afraid. They didn't have the money to fight in court,
That's right.
or they took the deal because they were pressured, just like you were, and they end up in jail doing a 6 month.
Yep.
Because if they find you guilty, if the prosecutor is successful, it's 10 years, it's 15 years, it's 20 years. So you take the deal for 6 months, you go in and you get out, and the jails are stacked with these kinds of people.
Yep.
So you were one of those, and they went after you and said, take the deal. We want to get you on record as a guilty. Plea down. You get do your little 6 months or 4 months, but you'll be dirty for the rest of your life.
That's right.
And that's the game.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah. You know, and the lead prosecutor at the time was an Obama appointee named Dick Chema. And a few years before my trial, Dick Chema ran against Mike Turner for an open congressional seat in Dayton. John Boehner went out of his way to raise money for Mike Turner, spent over 40 hours campaigning for Mike Turner. And at the time, John Boehner was a minority leader of the House of Representatives. My lawyers, by the way, didn't tell me any of this until we're having our victory lunch after my not guilty verdict. That's when they told me about Dick Chema and his history. And they said, we don't want to tell you because we don't want you to freak out during the trial. So you're not going to convince me or my lawyers that this wasn't Dick Chema trying to get back at John Boehner, because John deserves a lot of the credit for stopping Dick from becoming a congressman.
Yeah. Well, and that's the stuff that goes on that no one knows about.
Yeah. So back to cancer. I'm taking my cancer fight the exact same way. And you're right. In October of last year, God has blessed me with this amazing challenge called Stage 4 colorectal cancer. And Rich, as much as I'm not looking forward to the battle I'm in the middle of or the battle that's coming, I'm very much looking forward to the being I become when I win this again. So as soon as we were diagnosed, my wife and I started doing all sorts of research. You know, there's all sorts of natural cures out there and all sorts of treatments that are available throughout the world that aren't available in the United States. My wife and I have been to Mexico. There's some treatments in Germany we plan on going to taking advantage of next year. The strongest drug I'm doing literally is ivermectin and fenbenzidol, along with a vitamin cocktail that is put out by a Dr. Meckes. And
that's a lot of stuff in there.
A lot of stuff, mostly vitamins. There's you got to take
to boost
zinc.
your immune system. But ivermectin's in here.
Yeah, and pectin is right there. I take that every day to help heal my gut. So it's amazing what's available that literally I believe the pharmacy company doesn't want you to know about. My main doctor is a naturopath. She's a certified doc, so she can prescribe all drugs, but her approach to healthcare truly is healthcare, not sick care. We don't have a healthcare system in America. We have a sick care system.
Right.
So she brought in to help me with this battle an amazing oncologist, certified oncologist, who got tired of treating her cancer patients with chemotherapy and radiation and found a more metabolic, holistic approach. So my focus has been on 4 things and 4 things only: sleep, attitude, exercise, and nutrition. And physically, I feel better than I've felt in 20 years. I'm down to my high school weight. I literally do a minimum of 100 sit-ups a day. I'm lifting weights 5 to 6 days a week. Not the same muscle group every time. I'm rowing 5 to 6 days a week. I'm in the sauna. I quit all sugar and all junk food in October. Haven't had one bite. Quit all alcohol in February. My doc said cancer loves sugar and it loves alcohol, but she does want me to have 2 glasses of wine a week. I don't like wine. I did find a keto winery that has wine with one gram of sugar in a bottle and very low alcohol content. So I try to drink 2 glasses a day. I probably only get 5 glasses a week. I just don't like wine. But my entire lifestyle has changed. And at this point, we've decided we're not doing the chemotherapy. We're not doing the surgery. I did do the radiation. To this day, I regret it. My gut is still not healed from the radiation that I did. And
well, as initially, they recommend you do that, and you follow the doctor's advice until you started getting into it.
That is right. And now the tumor was a very aggressive, fast-growing tumor. it had grown from about an inch to 2.2 inches in a matter of like 3 months.
Yeah.
Now we've got it shrunk back down. About probably a month ago was our last scan, to 1.2 inches. And I believe 100% I can cure this holistically with ivermectin, with fenbenzidol, with I do a hydrogen peroxide therapy every single day. And you know, the stuff that we are going overseas for costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. But this stuff is curing cancer patients throughout the world for pennies a day. So there are alternatives that I blame the pharmaceutical company who ran the FDA and still is in charge of the FDA. And it's an amazing business model. It's a bad health model.
Oh, it's great if you're looking for short-term profits. I mean, the pharmaceuticals, you know, if you're looking for that quarterly report to make the shareholders happy.
Processed food gets you sick. They got a drug to mask the symptom.
I mean, it gets you through quarter to quarter, but year by year, over the decades, you know, it becomes a sick system. And then you try to make arguments in legislation that you have to have a political system to solve the sick condition of healthcare.
Yep.
And the real solution, and the ivermectin thing came out because of COVID, you know, so you and I talked about that even before you had this thing.
Yep.
You know, ivermectin was able to treat cancer, and because people were taking it because of COVID, they were finding out it was knocking out their early stages of cancer.
Yep.
So that's out of the bag, and really we're on a treatment path, and a lot of the stuff
Yep.
you have to go overseas to get
Yep.
should be at Walgreens.
Well, and it's funny you say that. You know, as you know, I only work on business stuff. I have never worked on a bill that wasn't making Ohio, similar to what we've done in Westchester,
Yep.
making Ohio the most business-friendly state in America.
Yep.
I dropped a bill this week that violates that pledge that I made to the constituents of Butler County, that I would only work on business stuff.
I think we can forgive you for that.
Yeah, it was a bill to make ivermectin over the counter, because when we first started down this path, the doctor that had the ivermectin protocol that I was following was a doctor out of Canada named Wilhelm Meckes. And we ordered our first batch of ivermectin from the Canadian pharmacy. And when it was time to reorder, they said, hey, we're out of the ivermectin for 10 days. We have everything but. So my local naturopath and my oncologist got together, and they called in a prescription to pharmacy for a 10-day supply of ivermectin. And shortly after it's called in, I get a call from Kroger saying, we're not going to fill this prescription. And in very colorful language that I'm not going to repeat to your viewers, I said, you're kidding me. And they said, no. And I said, why? And they said, we don't recognize this as a protocol for COVID-19. I said, it is not COVID-19. This is for cancer. They put me on hold for 5 minutes and came back and said, we're still not going to fill it. We don't recognize this as a protocol for cancer. So I, in very colorful language that I won't repeat for your viewers, said, then you call my oncologist, and I hung the phone up. They called me back 20 minutes later. They had not called my oncologist, but they told me they were going to fill it once. So our local docs found CVS Pharmacy that would fill it, and CVS filled it for about 60 days, because we were paying $500 a month to the Canadian pharmacy versus, I don't know, $30 a month locally. None of it's covered by insurance, by the way.
You got to pay all that out of the pocket because it's not recognized.
That's right. So when my wife reordered it from CVS, when she went to pick it up, they gave her more than the 30 days. They said, we're giving you everything we have, but their corporate headquarters told them they can't do that anymore. So since then, we found a local family-run compound pharmacy in Mason, Yost Pharmacy, which does an amazing job, and they're filling all of our needs now. So I dropped a bill to make ivermectin over the counter. By the way, Jennifer Gross has a bill that is far superior. It's called the Right to Try, which says you have the right to try anything. I hope that bill passes. If that bill passes, it makes my bill moot. I just took a smaller bite because oftentimes, even in our own caucus, when you do something too big, even members of the Republican Party think, hey, that's too extreme.
I mean, you're thinking, people have to remember, you're the majority whip in Columbus, and you think through the lens of I got to get it through all those guys.
That's exactly right.
All those people,
Yep.
they have all different concerns, levels of entry into the discussion.
Yep.
And you're like, what can they get on quick?
Yeah.
So you come up with something small.
That's right.
Now,
And
Jennifer takes bigger swipes because
Yeah.
she's looking at idealistically.
her bill is superior.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if she gets her bill out of the house, I'm going to put mine over on the side and start pushing hers. But mine is a backup just to at least let's do ivermectin now, and in the next GA, let's try to add more to it. You know, I'm lucky that the right to try I can do because I don't need to depend on insurance. And not every American is like that, Rich.
All right.
So I empathize. It's hard for me to sympathize with people because if you pointed out your whole life, anybody that wants more can get more. To work a third job, make yourself more valuable. You've written about that for ever since I started reading your blog over 20 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah. It's been a long time.
So it's hard for me to sympathize, but I can empathize now. So I get it, and we're taking this fight on. I am confident I'm going to be victorious. I'm confident I'm not doing the chemo. I'm confident I'm not doing the surgery. And when I'm all done, I'm going to really push for some fundamental changes in insurance policy.
Now, you're not just saying that as a survival with an overly optimistic appraisal of a situation and denial of an eventuality.
Yeah,
You are committed to solving this problem, getting better, living for many more years.
Yep.
And then taking the experience, and I mean, I think under the Trump administration, there's a lot easier than it was. But I'll say it right now. I mean, some of it's in this bag right here. There's cures for cancer.
Yeah.
Cancer is a treatable illness,
yep,
and it should have always been that way. And we have to have a different healthcare approach. And I think if you look at the totality of your terrible experience and your position in all this, I think it's going to lead to making it mainstream where people see, oh, you survived stage 4 cancer, and here's how.
yep,
Why aren't we doing this? Why isn't everybody doing this?
yep.
You don't have to. It doesn't have to be a terminal disease.
Yep. You know, Tucker Carlson is out there pushing nicotine to cure cancer, nicotine patches, not
Yeah.
all the crap that you get in a cigarette. And my attorney, Sean Maloney, you know Sean.
I know Sean.
He's the best second defense attorney,
Yeah.
Second Amendment attorney in the state. He is actually bringing me some nicotine patches on Monday. He's done the research. He's going to cut them up to the right size, show me how to apply them. So, you know, we're trying all of this stuff with no negative side effects.
So it's been growth. You got a tumor that's getting smaller, and it continues to get smaller every time I see you. And going back to all the little political events, and you've been busy and have been able to come to all of them. And people say, well, you've lost a lot of weight. That's because you're dying.
That's right.
No,
Quit eating crap, and you're going to be amazed what happens to you physiologically.
Well, that's the real thing, is you stopped eating the garbage to put yourself and your immune system in an optimal state to fight off a parasite,
Yep.
which is what it is.
That's what it is.
And you've been beating it.
Yep.
And talking about parasites, back on this Lakota levy.
Yeah.
The Lakota levy is a parasite to continued growth.
Yeah.
So when you have to, again, work within a system, and you always work in the background to get people to vote and run for these board. You've been very optimistic about putting people on the board that can fight this stuff.
Yep.
And so when I heard about the whole, your commitment to it, I was thinking it was in the spirit of trying to get the board to play nice and listen to you.
Yeah.
And I heard it. I didn't believe it, but I thought, well, maybe it's in the spirit of trying to work with that board, which, we have disagreements on the board, which is, you've encouraged me,
Yep.
You should run to be on the board. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with those idiots. They're so dumb.
Yeah.
And you say, but let's work with the system. I thought maybe the campaign donation was in that spirit.
No, it was just a dumb mistake. And in case my beautiful wife is watching, I do believe it was your fault, honey. I'm not throwing you under the bus. It could have been me, but I know she reads your stuff every day as well.
Yeah,
So.
and she wouldn't pay attention to me, and I've known her for years, and she's a great person. And going back to that trial, very few people, when you talk about like the first stigma that comes out on a successful person who happens to be a very powerful senator. You had a perjury trial you had to go through. You're associated with John Boehner,
Yep.
All these things you could easily put in a caricature of a politician and say, that's what's wrong with politics. I would never say that because it's not true at all, and because people don't know. But the caricature of it is those are all things that we've been taught not to trust. And a lot of people who tell you not to trust it are the crazy Marxists and socialists and communists who want to overthrow our entire system and not have people who are truly good and representative, who've been successful, go represent everybody so you have good things. And Westchester's good because your policies of low taxes have really allowed for everybody to thrive.
Yep.
But I've known Debbie for a long time, and going back to that period, the magic of what kept you really afloat every day. You had lawyers keeping stuff from you because they didn't want you to find out. You had to go speak well and be cognizant of your fight, just like you're doing with cancer now. And she was there with you all the time.
Yeah.
And I think you, at the end of it, you credited her with getting through it, because a lot of people just don't have a Debbie Lang in their life.
Yep.
If you had, Trump says it all the time. If you marry the wrong person, you destroy your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes people a few times to figure out who that right person is. But you had your right person. She's always been with you. You guys are really good. When Peter Navarro got out of jail and you guys were at the RNC and I wasn't able to go, you were on the floor. I was like, well, what pictures do you want? And I'm like, I want you to cover Peter Navarro.
Yeah.
I want a picture with you and Peter Navarro. And you guys went over and did it, because I thought that him getting out of jail was the way that they attacked him. That was, just a few days after Trump's assassination. That was the pinnacle moment of that, I think, that campaign, because it launched what was going to happen next. And people who are new to that, they saw it on the big stage because Trump and Peter Navarro went through it. But going way back in time, you and I have been through a lot.
Yep.
You've been through a whole lot. When people say, the question was, is George Lang a rhino? He works with the wrong side all the time. Knowing you and Debbie, and knowing Debbie, and Debbie, you talk to a lot of people, and it's not that you play both sides, but you try to build bridges with everybody so you can get there. And
you don't know when you're going to find common ground.
Well, and you guys are always
and you want to save those relationships, so when you find that common ground, you can work together.
And we've talked about it, when you run for an office and you're campaigning, you're supposed to represent everybody, and you've encouraged me a lot. You should run for an office. Run for this office. Run this. Come to this thing. Come over. I want to parade you around. I'm like, but I want to reserve the right to throw rocks.
Yeah.
Because I think you need to have some of that in the world, because that's how you determine the strength of an argument.
Yep.
Someone's got to throw rocks. Someone's got to be disruptive. Now, on the business side, I get it. I understand completely why you want to work and throw rocks, see if their argument's good. And they may have a good point, and give them the room to convey it. And even with some of the Lakota people, I've been to a lot of these meetings where I think they're just out of their mind, but I try to give them the benefit of the doubt. The new superintendent, I think she's, you hire these people for these positions to essentially sell tax increases. But I want to believe that she can do a good job. I mean, I met her in a couple meetings, and I think she's, well-intentioned, a new treasurer. Maybe. I'm always hopeful. I always want to see, even if I have a personal disposition against it, I want them to be successful, because I want the community to not have a parasite.
Yep.
I don't want the community to have a cancer. So well-intentions, if they can be aligned towards something productive, that's great.
Yep.
But I think with you, all the different fights, I think we can clear up that you support the North Dakota side. You're not for the tax. You're definitely not for the first time in your life. You would be for taxes.
That's right. And you and I have been fighting against the Lakota levy for well over a decade now. I think there were seven.
Well, it was more than a decade. I mean,
7 or 8 that failed before they passed the last
there
one.
was. It goes back into the 2005s, I think.
Yeah, and I'm very much a proponent of public education. I am not a proponent of public indoctrination, but we need a strong education system in order to meet the workforce demands. So that's why I'm so adamant. Right now, I tell all young kids, go to a technical school, go to a community college.
Go get a
Don't-
skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, or a finance major, don't go to college. It's not worth the money or the investment. But for the most part, and I believe this, Lakota doesn't have a funding problem; they have a spending problem.
Like a lot of them do. It's in the nature of the public education system.
Yep, and a big part of it over the last 30 years is the growth of administration, not the growth of educators, not putting more emphasis and helping kids to graduate. There's some things Lakota does great. Their MRDD program. My favorite person in the whole world who passed away a few years ago, my nephew Kimbo, fairly severe case of a mental retardation, Down syndrome, and Lakota was amazing. They were awesome. Kim had a life that I know not every school could have prepared her for. So there are things that Lakota does that are really good. But when they created that Lakota Office of Diversity and Inclusion,
We don't want to pay for that.
there's nothing, and on their website, Rich, it literally said, we hire our staff, and I'm paraphrasing, but this is a literal paraphrasing, based on the diversity of our students, including race, including religion, including sexual identity, including transgenderism. And to be clear, if you're teaching my kid, I really don't care that you're gay. I don't care if you're a Hindu. I don't care what your race is. I care you're the best. And nowhere was there standards based on meritocracy.
That's the problem.
That is a problem. And the market, they're based on meritocracy. Get the best. And the market really doesn't care your background, your experience. They care your ability to produce a result.
And that's how it should be. And that's where the market really is going to go. And the future of education, especially with Vivek Ramaswamy being governor, which is, I think, a foregone conclusion. I mean, he's got to go out and still do it. You still got to do all the things. People have to support. You have to have high voter turnout. Can't get sloppy. But, he's going to be the guy, looks like. And the reform is going to carry down from the Trump administration in Ohio.
Yep.
And it's going to change. And everybody needs to embrace that change. But you look at this levy that they proposed for this one, you just wonder why they think the things they do. I mean, you could read it in a textbook and say, this is what public education is supposed to be. And they're so off kilter from the trend where it's headed. The hidden cost of this particular levy is that they want smaller classrooms. And they want to tear down 10 buildings and rebuild a bunch of buildings. And I'm sure there's a lot of builders out there who would love to be a part of that. And it's great work for everybody. Build some new buildings, new chrome on the door handles. That's wonderful. But you're making smaller buildings means you have to hire more teachers in an age when education, computerized technology, AI technology, all that's making it mandating smaller workforces. They want to get bigger.
Yep.
They want more. So smaller classrooms mean hiring more staff, and that's where the $250 million payroll is for them.
Yep.
Which is what the real cost is.
Yep.
So not only just is this about building buildings, it's about adding staff, and that's the wrong direction. So I think we cleared up a lot here.
And my friend Carl Reisen pointed out the other day at a Ben Lynn event that one of the most successful public schools in the state of Ohio is Walnut Hills. High standards, high success rates. Over 90% of kids, their graduation rate is virtually 100%. Over 97% go on to become doctors.
How long has that been? That can't be that long.
It's a Cincinnati public school that has been sending their best and brightest there. Huh. They have standards you have to meet to get in there. But he pointed out how the results they deliver and the fact that building was built in 1931, almost 100 years old. And then he followed up with Harvard Hall, still in use today, 1766. So they're, the new buildings don't equate to better results.
I know all these, and I can say it. You don't have to say it. I know all these socialists and Marxists and all these goofballs that are part of that are so pro-education. They love the European model, European socialism. Well, if you go to Europe and you travel around Paris and you go around England, Great Britain all around it. The average building is a couple hundred years old. They don't have new buildings everywhere. They rehab all their old stuff.
Yep.
I think the school building I saw in Canterbury was like 300 years old. That was a school. They still teach in that same building. They might put a new air conditioning unit in.
You're right.
They might do some renovation that makes sense, but most of them are not. I mean, here we consider old to be 50 years old.
Yeah.
If a school building is 50 or 60 years old, get rid of it.
Yep.
The junior high school, I pointed that out in one of the early things we did on the blog. They want to tear down that Liberty Junior School over by Dutchland Woods, over by the Lakota East. And it's on the chock block. And I remember when that opened, and it was like the new state-of-the-art, space-age school. That was only 30, 40 years ago.
Yep.
Wasn't that long ago.
Yep.
But they're ready to tear it down and build a whole new one. They want smaller classrooms so all the union members can have 17 people in a class instead of 20 or 30. And then they're just going to add that many more teachers to the payroll and then ask us for more money again.
Yeah, and the big concern is what are they going to do to administration, which has grown disproportionately to teachers and disproportionately to student growth. And keep in mind, Lakota's enrollment has been relatively flat for a while now. They have had some slight growth, and I do believe Liberty Township is set to develop in a big way, so they could see a burden. But I believe the voucher program is giving parents a choice. And here's a stat I learned from Lakota. They're the fourth highest utilizer of voucher programs in the state. Now think about this, Rich. They're the 8th largest school district.
Yeah.
Yet they're the 4th highest utilizer. That tells me that they are driving their students away at a higher rate than any other district in the state. I mean, they should be the 8th largest utilizer of the voucher program if they had their fair share.
Yeah.
But the fact they're 4th, that tells me that parents are saying, hey, help us with better options. When we were first doing the voucher program, I had a group of Middletown parents in my class. And I was prepared for these parents. I assumed they were going to be coming in fighting the voucher program. They were all African-American parents. So I went in there with statistics about how Middletown School was failing, and I was prepared to show them and convince them. I didn't have to. I sat down. They used my statistics before I had a chance to use them. They told me how these schools are failing. They told me literally they are teaching my kids that they don't have the same opportunity as your kid because they were born as victims. And they said, we can't afford to send our kids to private school like you did. Please help us. Since then, by the way, Middletown has got this amazing new superintendent in there that I think in 2 to 3 years, she is really turning that school in the right way, focused on the fundamentals of education. Let's get back to the fundamentals. Debbie's doing a good job. By the way, I also want to, Lakota, say what you want about their superintendents, and I would agree with you. I think the board totally mismanaged the Matt Miller situation, but they've got a treasurer in there, Adam Zink. I don't know where Adam is on the levy. He and I have not talked directly about it, but just in terms of being technically competent, he's about the best in the state. He's really good.
I want to root for him. I listen to him at these meetings, and I watch the videos when they put them up, and I don't want to think bad of him.
Yeah.
I mean, so you hope that they do well, but they need to stop asking for money. You get $250 million from the community. A lot of taxes. You got to learn to live with that.
Especially, and fortunately for you and I, we live in Westchester and Liberty, but for the majority of Ohioans, they have had a horrible, horrible property tax increase. And the reason we have it in Westchester and Liberty is our county commissioners and our board of trustees, both the Westchesters and Liberties, told the auditor and treasurer, don't collect the money, don't give it to us. We don't need it. And, that's what responsible entities do. And I tried to talk to the Lakota board at the time and say, do the same thing, turn this money down. And they wouldn't do it.
So that opens up a whole bunch of other things, and we could talk for hours on the topic, I'm sure, because you start getting into labor and how labor is applied and who manages it and how's it merit-based, and all that's coming with a future Vivek Ramaswamy administration.
Yep.
We don't have to go out there and beat beat the ground on it. It's coming out of the Trump White House. It's going to be utilized by people like him, and the world's going to be much different. We're going to have education shaped in a much more proactive way. And so throwing money at this thing now, it would be insane. And I know you're not insane, so I'm glad we cleared it up, and I'm happy that you gave so much money to because they need it. The no more taxes people who are against this Lakota levy, $4,000 that you gave. That's a lot. Buys a lot of signs, and I'm happy to know that where you stand on things. I was a little concerned, but in the context of our friendship, I figured there's probably a good reason. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Yep.
And we have.
Yep. We have. I'm glad you brought up Vivek. As you know, my focus has been business, and over the years, Ohio has really done a great job of attracting business, and many times we've done things that DeWine was not in support of. There's a few more things we can do to really put our success on steroids, and under Vivek it's going to happen. But you know, if you just look at 1970 to 2020, in 1970 Ohio was the 12th largest economy in the world. The average Ohioan made 10% more than the average American, and we had 24 congressmen.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2020, the average Ohioan went from making 10% more to 12% less. Last year, they made 4% more, by the way, because businesses are coming back. In 2020, we went from the 12th largest economy in the world to the 24th. Still bigger than Morocco, but a shadow of where we used to be.
Morocco.
And we went from 24 congressmen to 15. No state got their ass kicked as bad as we did in terms of percentage,
Yep.
not raw numbers, but percentage of representation lost. And Rich, I can show you why. 1971, the income tax. One tax after another, one regulation after another. We kept raising that tax. It started at 1%, the income tax, till it got to a high of 10%. And businesses started leaving, and people went to where the jobs are. As we have lowered taxes, businesses are coming back to Ohio at a pace they haven't since really the 1960s. We haven't added a congressman since 1940 was the last time we added one. And what's frustrating to me, what gets all the press are the big guys: Amazon, Honda,
Yeah.
Ford, Google, Joby, building electric cars that you write about.
Oh yeah.
Anduril, building
Yeah,
drones.
yeah.
Intel, the
That's
biggest.
the future.
Yeah. But what I'm more excited about are the little guys.
Yeah.
We eliminated the income tax on all pass-through entities on your first 250,000, not of revenue, but of income, and eliminated the cat tax on 90% of all businesses. So as a result, in the last 5 years, 2.1 million startups in Ohio, more than the previous 20 years combined. And we're not slowing down. This year, we're on pace to add 400,000. We're now the number one state in America to start a business. We're not the number one state to keep a business. So as we've lowered taxes, as we've lowered regulations, we see success. And DeWine actually, in the most recent budget where we went to a flat income tax, he literally said he didn't see a need for it. That's not what businesses are asking for. Well, I can show you empirically every time we lower it, more businesses come back. So I've already talked to Vivek about this, and two of his top priorities are going to be my two top priorities in the next GA, and that is the elimination of the income tax altogether, combined with the elimination of capital gains tax. Not just on businesses, on individuals. When you sell your house, when you sell your gold, when you sell any investment you have made, there will be no capital gains tax in Ohio. Missouri is the only state that has done that so far. But and combine that with the fact Trump is trying to index the federal capital gains with inflation, you watch the capital that we unleash in the state of Ohio.
Is your term your next term? Are you going to be there for Vivek?
I've got one more GA, so I'll be there for 2 years with Vivek.
So you'll get a chance to work with him on this.
Yes.
That's good, because I was wondering about that.
Yeah. And he and I have already probably
I'm sure he's ready to go.
Yeah, he is.
I'm sure he's. There's a lot of exciting things that are going to happen.
Yep.
And all those things you talked about was essentially the Westchester model. You've taken what worked here in Westchester, what Mark has been able to sustain since you've been gone,
Yep.
and now you've taken it to Columbus, and now you're doing it to the state of Ohio, and we've seen on the front end that's starting to work. We'll talk about some stuff on the back end. That's a separate conversation.
Yep.
But you're basically bringing the Westchester model to Ohio. And what we're protecting now with the school levy is the Westchester model to sustain itself, so we don't burden people with all these crazy taxes.
Yep.
And the goal is to keep taxes low so people can have money to invest in the community and let it continue to grow and thrive.
Yep.
And then tell Lakota to work with the money we already give you, because it's extraordinary what we have given you. And keep it there.
Yep. Well, and then I think at the state, we realize we don't have a funding problem either. We still have a spending problem. Mm-hmm. And as we have lowered taxes, guess what happened to our tax revenue? Gone up.
Yeah.
Gone up significantly. Billions of dollars a year of surplus because more and more people are coming back to Ohio. So we have a spending problem, and I'm so glad that at least in our caucus, the talk is every year we spend every 2 years, I should say, about $1 billion on the capital budget. We bond that money. We put our kids and our grandkids in debt. The only time we didn't do it was during COVID, when the federal government threw all that money at us. We were one of the few states that took that money and used it for our capital budget, not spending. So I'm really proud that at least the rumor right now is we are not going to have a capital budget, or if we do, it's going to be much smaller. If I get my way, it'll only focus on infrastructure to attract and retain business and workforce development. So Cincinnati Tech, Butler Tech, those type of schools that our businesses are saying, these are the type of skills and talents we need. And we're going to pay cash. I'm hoping anyway. I'm hoping we don't bond it. It's what Butler County does. The coroner need a new building. Butler County is the only county in the state, thanks to Don Dixon, we have no debt.
Yep.
And
how many places can say that?
Not one. We're the only one in the state, and I know Mike Ryan is going to follow that same path.
Yeah, so those are all great things. That's how you're supposed to be responsible. You've been a steward of all that. We've talked about a lot of good characters, but you're the hub of the wheel and a lot of goodness that goes on. And that's why we're talking about this, to kind of clear it up. You think Lakota's going to go out of business by giving you back that $2,000?
I do not think they're going out of business.
Think they'll go out of...
And for what it's worth, I think they know the levy's going to fail. I think. I could be wrong. It could pass.
Don't turn out. Don't hang back. Don't sit on the couch watching Netflix.
Yeah.
But it should go down in glorious flames.
Yep.
It should.
And I'm not so sure that's not their intention. They're smart people, and maybe they know, hey, let's ask for, what's going to be over $1 billion over the lifetime of the levy after all the interest.
And come back with a softened up number.
And come back with a.
Look, we listened to you.
Yeah.
We heard you. We heard the community. Yeah. Here's a little bit more. Here's another one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We talk about smart people. You might define as smart. I define it as deceitful, but there's intelligence and deceit.
There is a chess game.
There's a chess game.
All political stuff.
But you're against it. You're getting your money back. You're giving money to the pro Lakota people, to the pro anti-tax people, and I'm very happy, and I'm happy you did, and I'm happy to know you all this time. I'm happy that your stage 4 cancer is in remission, and that you're fighting all the good fight, and you're bringing to Ohio the greatness that Westchester enjoyed, so everybody can raise the level of living for everybody.
Yep.
And I think we're going to see a lot of great things to come.
Yep.
But you got to stay with us. And be on the path to resurrection, so we can have another conversation like this 20 years from now.
I look forward to it. You keep up the good fight.
All right.
Thanks
good
for
talk.
all you do.
Rich Hoffman here with the great George Lang, talking about how to make spaghetti in the back of the kitchen so everybody can enjoy it. And that's how you get good things in the world. So anyway, have a good day. See you later.
See ya.